Sword Art Online Re Aincrad takes you back into the Aincrad arc with beautiful illustrations from Kimi and lets you experience the story of the steel castle floating up in the sky with some additions you have never seen before. If you're light novel shy or just enjoy the illustrations featured in a manga, which is plenty in Re Aincrad Volume 1, this is the best way for you to experience the Aincrad arc stories. Welcome everyone, it's Gamerturk's book club and we'll be diving deeper into Re Aincrad Volume 1. Now, just hold on there, because I know you're likely confused because this series has like 50 different Aincrad manga adaptations so far in vague terms. So let's clarify those very briefly, shall we? The source material for Sword Art Online is the light novel series by Kawahara Reki. Covering Aincrad, we have the SAO main series and SAO Progressive series. The main series is basically what you have watched in the original anime, with a couple more stories that the anime never adapted. Progressive is an interquel that takes place after Kirito abandons Klein and covers Kirito and Asuna's adventures floor by floor. SAO Progressive series has its own manga adaptations, plural, which are an entire rabbit hole on their own. Meanwhile, Re Aincrad covers the main series Sword Art Online and acts as a reboot of the original Aincrad manga adaptation from back in 2010. Granted, that does mean it features certain things you have seen in the anime already, however, Re Aincrad clearly is aware of this concern you may have and clearly takes more than a couple steps to make sure it will be worth your while. At least this first volume I'm going to be talking about here. And before I get into the details, while I normally do not make a big deal about the physical versus digital release matters, you know, everyone has their preferred platform, while I always prefer reading physical books and thus as usual I request a physical review copy from Yen Press, when it comes to manga, I can't help myself but try to nudge you towards the digital version instead. I'm someone who prefers being light on the spine of the book whenever I read them, in fear of, damaging it. With light novels, pages have margins so that I never need to be hard on the book. With manga, however, there are no margins to speak of, and especially 2-page spread panels make me even more anxious. I like enjoying the full art, but outside of manga releases in magazine form that I don't have such issues with the spine, I always feel like digital is the way to go with book form manga. Amazon links are going to be down below in the description and they should direct you to your local Amazon region accordingly for both versions. But going back to our story, we open up with a little flash into the Ilfang the Kobold Lord fight with gorgeous art and then loop back to Kirito logging into Sword Art Online while Sugua is heading out of home. It is a familiar start to a familiar story, but it is a necessary one. It is the foundation of the entire series after all. Not that there's nothing to gain from it, some beautiful art here and there. My favorite is how girly and accurate Kirito looks all around after the transformation, especially right after the mirror scene, but as a channel focusing primarily on SAO information, I have to say, there's nothing you will learn on top of the anime adaptation from this foundational chapter. You experienced all of it in the anime, Klein and Kirito hanging out for a couple hours, Kayaba's announcement and explanations about the circumstances, this may be a game but it's not something you play, and Kirito leaves Klein behind because he's afraid of having to shoulder the responsibility of not being able to protect him and his friends. But what you know as an anime only ends here about 1/3 into the volume. The second chapter, in my opinion, is the cream of the crop here. In fact, it is one of my favorite stories in the Sword Art Online series. The first day, also known as the Day of Beginnings. For some reason, throughout the life cycle of Sword Art Online series, this beautiful story was always glossed over. The anime completely skipped it in season 1, Alicization anime came around and the story was completely removed from Kirito's nightmare sequence, Progressive movies adapted Aria of Starless Night, but completely removed the Anil Blade plotline that was the aftermath of this story. It was ignored so much that I created an extensive TV special trailer for this story as an April Fool's project to raise awareness for it with a full-on anime key visual, which you can get as a poster on my Teespring page, link's gonna be down below, and made one of my story of the past videos for it covering the story extensively, which you can also watch with the links down below or the icon on the top right. Make sure to slap the like button and subscribe for more Sword Art Online content as well while you're down there in the description. But here we are, seeing the first day finally getting adapted in some form. This story takes place just hours after Kirito leaves Klein behind and moves on as a solo player, where he comes across another beta tester and teams up with him to speed up their quest progress for the prized Anil Blade. It's a beautiful story that lays the groundwork for a lot of gameplay concepts as well as ideological ones when it comes to the types of players that exist in this game. Although the middle portion of the story seems to move a little too fast compared to its light novel counterpart with a distinct lack of inner monologues for the most part, it covers the key points of the story wonderfully. A beautiful and well set up beginning, a decent middle part with establishing the rapport between Kirito and Copper, and a great showcase of the double tragedy at the end of the story. I'll easily give it an 8 out of 10 solely because the lack of inner monologues and the fast pace during the twist of the story leads to Kirito's personality not getting the justice it deserves from the books in my opinion, but I'm also overly critical on this one because the first day is among my favorite stories in the series. After adapting the first day, the manga takes its first big creative liberty. Aria Starless Night was a story written by the request of the anime staff during the production of season 1, but because Kawarareki wrote way too much, as he usually does, it had to be trimmed a lot for the anime and was later turned into the first SAO Progressive story and spawned the entire Progressive series out of it because Kawarareki enjoyed writing it way too much. So technically speaking, the Floor 1 Ilfang fight is not even part of the main series. However, the Re Aincrad manga did not want to stay behind the anime adaptation, it wanted to offer something extra. So at the risk of causing some confusion, it decided to step into the territory of SAO Progressive and give us a beautiful and accurate adaptation of Aria Starless Night. There are some extra additions here, such as Argo tipping Kirito off about a player in the Labyrinth dungeon, and there are some cuts, like the Argo barging into the bathroom not being here, which is a cut I will always agree with and applaud. However, everything else is otherwise a perfect portrayal in Re Aincrad. We start with Asuna's inner monologues followed by her desperate decision, Kirito convincing her to do nothing reckless and gently nudges her towards the boss meeting, working together on their form as a party, the wind flurry drop from a yellow wasp enhancing the weapon, even the bath scene as well as the anneal blade plot are all here. And there are some subtle additions here and there that really set the mood and provide insight into the states of characters. Well, I am a big fan of Kiseki Himura's progressive manga adaptation for what it is, and what it is an ecchi rom-com reimagining of progressive that is willing to deconstruct the story in favor of earning a lot of laughs. Re Aincrad's version of the aria remains true to its core with a beautiful portrayal of the events without compromising from the down-to-earth and genuine tone of the story. And for that, I seriously can't recommend it to you enough. Again, if the light novels are too much reading for your preference, then Re Aincrad is absolutely something you should experience. However, on that note, sadly, Volume 1 is not long enough to cover the entirety of Aria, so the story is cut just short before reaching the climax. But that does not prevent me from being able to wholeheartedly recommend this volume to every Sword Art Online fan. Again, if light novels are too much of a reading for your preference. I will always prioritize recommending the source material over adaptations, with very rare exceptions like how I rate Alternative Gun Online higher in anime form. But that's all I have to say on Re Aincrad Volume 1, taking a familiar story, creating the definitive adaptation of it by taking multiple additional steps it was never forced to take, and provides a great and accurate Sword Art Online portrayal to you with beautiful artwork. That statement will sadly change in later volumes. It's a little far away, but it will. However, Volume 1 is an incredible manga adaptation that you will enjoy. Thanks to Kimi for the beautiful art, Sato Mito for the composition work, Stephen Paul for translation, Mark Gallucci for editing, Viet Fong Wu for the typesetting, and Andy Swist for the design work. And of course, I'd like to thank Yempress for sending me a review copy and making this unplanned Gamerturk's book club video possible. One thing though, Yempress, hope you hear this one, it was sheer luck that the book even reached me in the first place. In typical parcel delivery fashion, the UPS delivery did not even attempt to deliver the book or even try to reach me. Luckily, the dorm reception had called me and left a message that I had received something, that they did not leave it with them. However, the UPS person did not even leave behind a slip for a personal pickup, nor did UPS ever send me the usual SMS or email to pick it up. I literally had to personally spend 3 to 4 days with UPS support to figure out what was even happening. If I hadn't done that, the book would have gone back to US without me ever knowing about it. Supposedly, they claim they did not have my contact info or phone number, which shouldn't be true. That's something we provide when requesting these reviews, and it's no excuse for not leaving a slip of paper at my postbox either to come pick up here, wherever. Nowadays, I fear about the potential of receiving the Kiss and Fly manga volume or the Demon's Crest volume 1 light novels and them never actually reaching me. So Empress, if you hear this, please add some more transparency to the review copy process. It's really beautiful to receive a surprise review copy, but it's not the best experience having to work with the UPS support to see whether I have a random package I don't even have a tracking number for. If I even can know about the fact that I am receiving a random package that I wasn't expecting. I particularly ask for this because honestly, having these tangents at the end of these videos really affects my watch time terribly and drops me in algorithm. I don't like that. Oh, I also apologize for being late with this review. I was writing my master's thesis this past 2 weeks. I really wanted to get this out sooner, but the timing of these review copies always ends up being in the most unfortunate circumstances. At least reading manga is much faster than light novels that I could get this out in 2 days after finishing my thesis. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one with a huge unboxing I have been planning since last year that finally arrived at me. So stay tuned and stay cool.